fugitive convicted in the 1973 murder of a state trooper, lives in Cuba. Pepsi is selling more new products, such as its craft sodas like Mountain Dew Black Label, which is advertised as being made with real sugar and herbal bitters. It also had strong sales of its Frito-Lay snacks. PepsiCo reported profits that topped Wall Street expectations. And a Las Vegas business group says the $17.5 million illusionist David Copperfield paid for a mansion at the Shadow Creek Golf Club set an area record. Tanya Hansen, CNBC Radio.
Geico applauds your inner ride leader.
An enthusiastic engine rev goes out to the biker in you who leads the pack. Even if that pack is a party of one, you're still a leader to Geico. To prove it, Geico will insure your motorcycle with great rates and 24/7 customer service. And with Geico by your side, you're never cruising solo. Which means you've just been nominated as a real ride leader. Congrats! The smell of fine leather and trailblazing is in your future.
Geico Motorcycle. See how much you could save.
Napa know-how!
Napa's celebrating the most important things we can think of: America, racing, and freedom, by giving you a free patriotic racing cap for spending $25 at Napa. And for every hat given away, we'll donate $1 to the Intrepid Fallen Heroes Fund. Help us celebrate America, racing, and freedom with a free Napa Patriotic Racing Cap. That's Napa Know-How. At participating Napa Auto Parts stores while supplies last. Offer expires 7/31/16.
Redlands Blueprint and Commercial Printing Company has been serving the greater Inland Empire for over 60 years. For all of your printing needs, from full-color printing to high-speed copying and everything in between, go to Redlands Blueprint and Commercial Printing Company. Their staff is committed to your total satisfaction. Great service isn't just lip service at Redlands Blueprint and Commercial Printing Company. It's the way they do business year after year. Having trouble finding drafting supplies? Redlands Blueprint and Commercial Printing Company still carries a complete selection. Redlands Blueprint and Commercial Printing Company is rated high in customer satisfaction by Value Star, an independent rating company. For all of your personal or business printing, call Redlands Blueprint and Commercial Printing Company at 909-792-3478. That's 792-3478, or visit them on New York Street in Redlands off the I-10 and the Crosstown Freeway.
Inland Body and Paint is a family-owned and operated fleet collision and repair shop that's proud to live in and help our community. Bring your heavy-duty trucks and or equipment to their Fleet Collision and Paint Center in Fontana for expert collision repair services. With 35 years of experience, you're sure to receive quality workmanship at an excellent price from Inland Body and Paint Center. From fiberglass repairs to quality painting, they'll take care of your truck and equipment from top to bottom in their new 64-foot spray booth. By the way, Inland Body and Paint of Fontana repaired and repainted the KCAA truck, and they can do the same job for your car, truck, or heavy-duty equipment. Inland Body and Paint, dedicated to the community and to your satisfaction. Call them today to learn what they can do for you. You can find Inland Body and Paint on Valencia in Fontana. Call them at 909-434-0466 or online at inlandbodyandpaint.com.
KCAA invites you to forget about the troubles of the world and join us for the summer of love and fun. You'll love life listening to KCAA 106.5 FM and 1050 AM by the pool or anywhere this summer. You can win two ways with KCAA. Now through the end of July, KCAA is giving away All-American Summer Fun Packs of tickets for the entire family to Junior University's Sleeping Beauty and Ringling Brothers and Barnum & Bailey's Out of This World Circus. When you hear the Beach Boys, be the fifth caller at 909-888-KCAA. That's 888-5222, and win a pack of tickets to both of these great shows, or be one of the first 5 people to click like on KCAA's Facebook page at facebook.com/KCAA Radio. Summer of Love and Family Fun Packs, Junior University Sleeping Beauty, and the Circus at KCAA 1050 AM and 106.5 FM.
Hey! What the? Honey! The water just stopped in here.
They turned it off because you're wasting water.
What? What are you talking about?
You know.
Because you know it's all about that drop. about that drought, no water. It's all about that drought, no water. It's all about that drought, no water. It's all about that drought. Yeah, it's pretty clear, we're really short on blue. It's time to save it, like we're supposed to do. Some say it's doom, gloom, and all our grass must go. But together we can make it and enjoy our golden state. It's all about that drought, no water. It's all about that drought.
Welcome to the Water Zone on KCAA 1050 AM and 106.5 FM. And we're broadcasting live from San Bernardino. I'm one of your hosts, Rob Starr, along with the infamous, I call him Mikeypedia, Mr. Mike Barron.
Hey, great to be here. It's another week of Californians saving water. So
you know, it's that magical time of the year.
Let's see. School is out.
Oh, wait, it's not Christmas. It's our anniversary.
Oh, right.
It's our
It's been nice knowing you so many years.
Yeah, the first two, we didn't count the first two because they were practice ones. But that was a good thing.
That's right. It's the anniversary of the Water Zone.
Absolutely.
Fantastic.
Have you noticed any changes in people coming up and recognizing you and everything else? I know I have.
You know, I have to carry around these 8x10 glossies now because people want me to autograph. Are you on the Water Zone?
You know, I think my neighbor's stalking me because she's been Googling my name on her computer.
Ah.
You know how I know?
How do you know?
I can see her through my telescope.
Oh, very good. There are laws against. There might be laws against that, you know.
Yeah, and you know, people come up to you because I always joke with you that you're the chick magnet. No matter where we go, all these women, all the trade shows, is Mike around? And it's like, how do you do this? You know, and I hate it when I'm about to hug somebody, you know, who's really sexy, and my face hits the mirror. I'll keep my day job, right?
That's right. That's right. So, yeah, we didn't realize that we had turned this into the joke zone.
Absolutely. And are you tired when you leave here from work? We work all day and then we do the show.
Yeah, but actually, I don't. I get energized just in talking to guests and learning about what's being done about our water issues in the state of California and across the state. So
you don't forget things, and I know I do. You know, I went to my doctor the other day. You know that.
That's right. I remember you told me. That's right.
Because I want to talk about my loss of memory. So now he makes me pay in advance.
So, my gosh. Do you have a water joke?
No.
Well, see, this engineer, this hydrologist, and this contractor walk into a bar. You'll have to listen to next week's show to find out what happens.
Oh. Well, I heard a friend of mine who's a reporter. And he was talking about all these stories that cover about water and even what's going on today in Washington and stuff. And he says, some politicians in diapers have one thing in common.
Politicians and diapers, what do they have in common?
They both should be changed regularly and for the same reason. Anyway, enough of the jokes on that. Hey, we are celebrating our anniversary, first year anniversary, and we did have a contest, and it was a riddle contest, and we gave away questions for 3 riddles. And just to remind everybody what those were, riddle number 1 was, what is the one thing that all wise men, regardless of their politics or religion, agree is between heaven and earth? And the answer to that was the word and. Had to be really smart.
You can't argue with that. That's just a fact of grammar.
That's correct. The second one was walk on the living, they don't even mumble. Walk on the dead, they mutter and grumble. What are they?
Oh, you know what? I thought about this one. I said, what can make noise when it's dead? I mean, what? And all of a sudden, it struck me. Leaves.
Falling leaves. So the leaves struck you down. It came down on the...
I was thinking that I'm walking on them, and if they're green... Yeah. They don't make any noise.
They're not crunchy.
That was a good one.
And the third one we gave was, you heard me before, you hear me again, then I die till you call me again. What am I?
An echo.
Echo. That was it. So from all the people writing in to our ToroWatersmart.com, we had a winner. Actually, they had the highest score, 2 out of 3.
Ooh, which one did they miss, by the way? Do you know? Do you have that information?
No, I don't remember that offhand.
I'm just curious.
But it was Ronnie Kelly of Lakewood, California. So she's getting 4 baseball tickets to the Angels to see Chicago White Sox on the 18th, I believe.
Of July.
And a gift certificate for dinner.
Excellent.
And we have to call her to see if she wants us to go with her. I don't know that.
That's true. I bet she probably has some good friends or family that she wants to be able to treat.
Absolutely. And that night, if they have kids or bring kids, the kids get to run the bases. They do that occasionally where they let kids go down on the field and run across the bases.
Do they define how old you can be before you're not a kid?
Just put your thumb in your mouth, and I'm sure they'll let you
go
through.
Oh, man, that could be fun.
They'll let you go through with that. So, anyway, that's the exciting thing, and congratulations to Ronnie. We'll be getting in touch with her next week and getting her the tickets and so forth. And
excellent.
And Toro, and the tickets were on from the Toro Company, and we appreciate the donation for that. And they get special parking, which is really nice, and they get free meal. So can't complain.
How can you beat that, especially if you enjoy sporting events?
Absolutely.
So well, are we going to have a little news today, do you think?
We can have a little bit of news. And now for the news of the week about water with Mikeypedia Barron. And me.
Rob Starr. The star himself.
Nah, we try hard. So what's new today?
Well, I was doing a little research. I was speaking to an undergraduate student who is writing a paper on water, whether the impact of the drought in 2015 was more caused by man, or was it caused more by the drought, by nature? Was it a nature issue, or was it we didn't prepare enough?
I think both.
So obviously, it's kind of a one begets the other. But the interesting thing was this student accessed that book, Let There Be Water, and found that there were so many things that have led Israel to replace potable water consumption that they get from precipitation, because it's a Mediterranean country.
Correct.
And its actual rainy season, which is about 4 months long, November to March, is about the same time as our rainy season.
Right.
And they have hot, long summers. We have some pretty good summers. But what we've seen is that now almost 100% of wastewater in the country of Israel is treated and used for agricultural purposes. And that has made a huge difference. Mm-hmm. And the use, of course, of drip irrigation and that cultural ethic where water is highly valued.
Right.
So,
and not only for humans, but for wildlife and other things. I mean, just think about it. It's a desert. And who would have believed? I know you and I have talked about this many times. We've had author Seth Siegel on. We had the Consul General of Israel on. And they all talked about this. And what they did, it wasn't an overnight thing.
No.
But they methodically had a plan and followed through. And now they're, as we said before, they're supplying water to Jordan, to Egypt, to even Iran, one of their enemies. But when it comes to water, Iran loves Israel. Hey, give me more water. And that's what's happening.
So they've achieved something that we are now talking about in California, and that's water sustainability. Mm-hmm. They have the ability to have sufficient water, not only for the state of Israel, which is, quintupled its population over the last 50, 60 years. And so this water sustainability is achievable as evidenced by what the state of Israel has done, but also I think Singapore has achieved water sustainability. So it can be done when it becomes a major objective, and it's something that is pursued over the long haul. And just to give some additional credence to that, we had Representative McClintock on the show,
Congressman McClintock,
Congressman McClintock, and he mentioned that the amount of storage on the Colorado River is something to the tune of about 70 million acre feet, and the amount of storage on the Sacramento River is 10 million acre feet. So it's a 7-to-1 ratio. Which river do you think actually flows more water on an annual basis?
Sacramento.
It does. So here's, in fact, it's about 22 million acre feet a year that flows through the Sacramento River on an average year. So when you have above average, where we had above average rainfall and snowfall because of the El Nino effect up in Northern California, you might get something like 35 million acre feet of water. And you've said this before on our program, that so much of rainfall just makes its way out to the sea. It's not captured, it's not retained, and that could make a massive impact on getting us through those dry years with, much less.
Well, that's why my answer to that student's question is nature or man-made. I think it's both.
Yeah.
Because we've been allowing this to happen. We know that 90% of the water when it rains in Southern California goes to the ocean.
Yep.
And it collects all that dirt and garbage as it goes into the ocean and rivers and bays and such. So that's not a good thing to do.
So that's, I think, something that we need to become more proactive in understanding what opportunities there are to increase our above ground storage, our below ground storage, as well as water treatment and replenishment of groundwater supplies with the use of treated water.
Which leads into a perfect segue for our guests today. We got three great guests. We have a gentleman named Pete Nichols, who's the National Director of Waterkeeper Alliance, and that was founded by Robert F. Kennedy Jr., so hopefully he's going to be on the show in the next couple of weeks. We also have, he's the national director for all of that agency. We also have Megan Broussard, who's the executive director of the Inland Empire Waterkeeper, and we have a Mr. Gary Brown, who's the executive director of the Orange County Waterkeeper, who we all know. And so, welcome everybody to the show. I'll speak at once.
Thank you.
Hey, Rob.
How you doing, everybody? So, Pete, we'll start with you. You can kind of give a little background about how it was started. We know that Robert F. Kennedy was the founder and stuff, but tell us how that started, what's your main mission, what you're doing worldwide, and then we can kind of break it down into what Megan's area is doing, because we have two of your associates here representing Inland Empire and Orange County, and kind of tie this all together.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. The Waterkeeper Alliance was started in 1999, but actually the concept of waterkeeping started on the Hudson River back in the 60s when a group of fishermen got together and realized that their fishery was being polluted by industry along the Hudson. And they gathered to fight the polluters and realized that they were stronger as a group than they were as individuals. And so we formally started Waterkeeper Alliance in 1999 and currently have 300 waterkeepers around the world in 34 countries. And they're all individual advocates, very much like Gary and Megan, all working to protect their waterways from sources of pollution and working on issues such as water quantity, which is important here in California. And they all work independently. They're all part of their communities and really care about the impacts of pollution on their waterways. And it's a great movement, very grassroots based. And it's here in the U.S., we have about 150 waterkeepers all around the country. It's a great movement, and Gary has been around the movement for many, many years and doing great work down there in Orange County, as is Megan in the Inland Empire there.
I just got to say one quick thing, because when I found out this fact, I was surprised. But many of us, when we get near, I don't know, but these cement conduits that carry water from cities and ultimately stormwater out into the ocean, that there are these plaques that are embedded in the cement that says, this water that's here goes out to the ocean. So be aware of that. And Gary, I think you mentioned that the organization you are the executive director for kind of created that capability, created that program to do.
Yeah, well, a lot of groups have worked on that, and I think the important piece about waterkeepers as individuals and being part of their communities is really creating a sense of place. All activism, all conservation starts locally, and I think waterkeepers really bring that sense of place and that sense of education, like you were mentioning about the storm drains, and realizing that people live downstream, and critters live downstream, and I think that's something that waterkeepers bring to the communities, and it's a really fantastic model of we're all very close. We gather once a year to learn from each other and share skills. And we have water keepers in China, we have water keeper in Iraq, several in Africa, many in Latin America, and it's continuing to grow.
Absolutely. Well, let me just give the phone numbers out for the audience if they want to call in and ask a question besides us. If they're local, it's 909-888-5222. If you're calling outside the 909 area, it's 888-909-1050. And so we'll continue. So tell us some of the major projects that from the corporate side of it, from the International Alliance, what are you working on?
Well, the big thing we're working on right now, a lot of folks around the world, and particularly in some of our international programs, are working on the impacts of climate change. Whether it be drought or sea level rise, ocean acidification. That we're seeing that really come to bear on a lot of communities that don't have the infrastructure that we may have here in the United States. So they're already, a lot of them, behind the curve as far as having the appropriate infrastructure to deal with the impacts of climate change. So we're seeing a lot of that affecting our international programs. And we're seeing a lot of impacts resulting from fossil fuels. A lot of coal-fired power plants that are, not only impacting the air quality, but also impacting water quality in local areas, whether it be from deposition and ocean acidification or direct pollution from burning fossil fuels. So we're seeing a lot of projects focused around energy right now. As I mentioned, stormwater is an issue in every community. Here in the U.S., we have laws in place to address that. A lot of these international groups that we have just don't have the regulatory structure, sophisticated regulatory structure that we have here. So we have water keepers working on trying to build that infrastructure within their local governments to deal with some of the pollution impacts, some of the broader impacts of water pollution.
Now you have a whole group of attorneys on staff that I guess put documents and proposals into the government agencies. Is that correct?
We do have a fairly good legal team that offers support to our international groups. A lot of our water keepers here in the United States have their own legal staff. And like I said, we offer as much support as we can to try to assist those international groups in just building a law such as the Clean Water Act, something that works to protect everyone's right to swimmable and drinkable and fishable waters. For example, in Iraq, I went over there in 2011 to start a water keeper on the Tigris River, and I gave a lecture at American University over there to the Ministry of the Environment about how the Clean Water Act works and how they can start to use that to protect their waterways. And we're working with them right now to help build their version of the Clean Water Act. So it's there's a lot of work to do out there, but we've got good people on the ground doing it.
Well, every journey begins with that first step, and that's a commendable effort. Now, on the one hand, Rob mentioned there's a legal team, but I know in past conversations that the philosophy of Waterkeeper is really one of engagement with, perhaps we want to call them the source of the pollution. It's always seems to me that there's always that initial effort to create understanding and to identify potential solutions where the very entities that perhaps are contributing or causing the pollution become part of the solution. Could you perhaps comment on that philosophy?
And maybe you can comment on the actions you're doing in North Carolina.
Yeah, well, litigation is a tool in all of our toolboxes, especially here in the U.S. And we like to use it as a last resort, because even the polluters live in our communities. And oftentimes I think they need to be educated on what the impacts of their industrial pollution has on the communities and has on the people downstream. So we always try to work, with industry to better their practices.
But doesn't some
Gary has
some
great examples of that.
But doesn't some of the governments, I know in pollution, you basically pay to play. You want to pollute, you just pay more money, and they keep on polluting.
Well, that's I think that happens in across industries, and not just with polluters that are affecting our waterways. But I think what we also do is we work with the regulatory agencies, so the EPA, the local regional water boards here in California, for example, to make sure that they have strong policies, that they have the funding to enforce the laws that are on the books to protect our waterways. And I think it's a dynamic process, but we certainly we advocate wholeheartedly for the waterway and for the community. And if that involves litigation, we don't shy away from that.
Right.
I know there was a situation, and I think, Gary, maybe you were involved in this, or maybe it was with maybe Megan was involved, but I think it had to do with kind of junkyards, perhaps, or where steel was stored, or old parts, and when it rained, these parts were unprotected, right, and you created this toxic runoff. Does that ring a bell in terms of something that you addressed that you could maybe share with our audience?
Sure. We have 5 different pillars of our program. We do education, advocacy. We do a lot of restoration work. We do research, but our 5th pillar is we have a robust enforcement pillar that we enforce clean water laws. And in the Inland Empire and Orange County, that area is our jurisdiction. We kind of look at industries as a whole and see what industries are kind of the worst polluters and what industries we can start cleaning up. And so we did. You're absolutely correct, and it's an interesting story because we went to scrap yards and we found that well, let me say it this way. We never found one that was not polluting. And large ones, small ones, and so we had hoped our strategy was that we would litigate some of the larger ones, and maybe the industry or the local industry would kind of get the message and get together and all start cleaning up, because that had happened previous in the construction industry. And so after bringing 11 different enforcement actions, we absolutely cleaned up 11 different large scrap yards. But our goal was to clean up the industry. And so our strategy, frankly, was not working. And we didn't want to sue all the scrap yards. And so we went to an individual who was kind of the king of the hill and the leader. He owned a number of scrap yards and the terminal at Long Beach where they load scrap on ships. And we worked with him, and I suggested to him, why don't we partner? And he happened to be the president of the national organization of scrapyard. It's called ISRI. And so I said, why don't we work together, and why don't we actually write a discharge permit for your industry? And that will give you a clear path to compliance. You have to put in best management practices on your facility, and then let's develop an achievable goal that you can get water quality standards to. And if we accomplish those things, then the third thing is all of your competitors will have to do it as well. And so he was excited about it, and we started a stakeholder process. A number of scrapyard owners put money into the kitty, and we hired engineers. We had the regional board at all of our meetings, regional board staff, and we actually developed what you call a special sector-specific permit for the scrapyard industry. Because one thing unique to that industry is they don't have total control of what materials come in their front gate. But once it's there, they're responsible for it. And so the state adopted it, and we're in our fourth year of actually having it implemented. It's going to be renewed for another 5 years, and the state is kind of monitoring how well it does, because when we went up to Sacramento to make a presentation to them, they thought, if this is successful, maybe we should put it in the state industrial permit. And so it's a work in progress, but it's where litigation turned into collaboration, and we wound up having a great relationship with many in the scrapyard industry.
That's a remarkable story. I mean, you guys from every single level. That's why we're glad we have all three of you on, of all things that you've achieved. Just get Megan in here for a moment. Megan, I know you guys do a lot of things since you're the closest to our office, but you have several programs that are pretty interesting. One's called Crest to Coast 2016, and then you also have something called the River Cats and River Camp. Can you kind of give us a little education on that?
Yeah, well, we're really lucky in the Inland Empire as a waterkeeper because, as you've mentioned, a lot of areas of the watershed have been concreted over, or our fellow waterkeepers are dealing with mostly channelized areas. But in the Inland Empire, our jurisdiction goes from the Prado Dam all the way up to the origination point at the Crest in the San Bernardino Mountains. And luckily, because of two women in the 60s, Martha McLean and Ruth Wilson, we are not channelized. We have our natural river in its natural state as far as topography goes. And throughout this area, where Toro is housed and where waterkeepers' offices are housed, famed biologist E.O. Wilson referred to this area as one of 10 biological hotspots in the world. It's really a riparian forest and an amazing asset, and very easy to engage the community once you kind of bring them down to it and let people know, what Riverside, for instance, and Riverside County is named for. And it's this amazing resource of the Santa Ana River. And so we do have the same 5, pillars, but out of those, I think advocacy and education and restoration are where we've really sunk our teeth in the San Bernardino and Riverside County communities. So with Crest to Coast, we engage corporate sponsors and partners and the community to come out to these cleanups, and we systemically clean from the crest to the coast, not always in that order, usually going where the areas are most impacted, but in just over 3 years. Now, we started this in April of 2014, so we're entering a third year, and we've removed over 30,000 pounds of heavily impactful trash. We're talking everything from litter to hundreds of tires, countless amounts of batteries, of paint cans, of really toxic, impactful pollution. But in the meantime, the mechanism for doing that was these community cleanups where we were able to do so much education and outreach. And so really, being a lifelong Riversider, my focus and my viewpoint that I conduct the daily work of Waterkeeper of Inland Empire from is stewardship. It's grassroots organization. It's really igniting the community that I come from and that I love to take back their river and their waterways, which is really the heart of the Waterkeeper movement.
I know you're on the board along with me for the Chamber of Commerce in Riverside, also Keep Riverside Clean and Beautiful, and you guys do a great work on what you do every single year. What excited me was the things that you do with the River Rats and the River Camp.
Right. Well, so it's, and I always say River Rats first too, because we're Inland Empire kids of the 80s and 90s, and that's what we called ourselves. But our program is actually River Cats, and it stands for Kids Activism Through Science. Right. And so that's where we provide field trips absolutely free from kindergarten on up to 12th grade. We pay for the bus, the substitute teacher, the facilities. Traditionally, we were taking kids, when I inherited the position about 4 years ago, we were taking kids largely to treatment facilities and coming and doing in-class presentations so that they got an idea of watershed management and what a watershed is. But I've kind of expanded that to bringing them down into the river. And we take these kids, we give them a whole menu to choose from, but time after time, 90% of the time, the kids and their teachers choose the Santa Ana River in Riverside. And for the first time ever, they walk through the Arundo and they find out that it's an invasive species. And they find out that it was brought here by Juan Bautista de Anza over 200 years ago. And we talk about the history of the region and the biology of the region. And they track bobcats. And we track skunk and boar. And we take water samples and they look at them under microscopes. And it's really, it's probably the most impactful program of everything that we do. And that's saying a lot when Gary's talked about, we have one of the most robust enforcement programs of any NGO in Southern California. We are the leading organization that's doing water quality testing along the main stem of the Santa Ana. We do all of our lab work in-house. So we've got a lot to choose from. But I'm telling you, the education, I firmly believe that is the way to the stewardship of the Santa Ana. That is the way to swimmable, drinkable, fishable waters. It's absolutely reaching kids and families and giving them an understanding and then handing the river over to them and letting them be responsible for it because it belongs to them. And so that's River Camp, where River Camp comes in.
Right.
River Camp is really a labor of love, and because of the community and sponsors, we're able to offer one free membership to camp or tuition to camp for every kid that pays. So in Riverside, for instance, the river is often the modern-day railroad tracks, separating very underserved communities from very affluent communities that are literally a river apart, less than a mile apart, and most of these children will probably not meet, probably not engage with each other, but they do at River Camp. And for a week during the summer, they come every day from 8 in the morning. We've expanded it till 3 in the afternoon. It used to be till noon, but we knew working families needed it till 3. And we just completed our third year. It has more than doubled every year. We started with 22 kids, the next year 44. This year we had 70 children. And they do all the things I mentioned, but they also get in the river. They get in the river that they have either been told they weren't supposed to be in, or told that it's bad, effluent, or that they didn't know existed. And even though we cram that week with meeting geologists and biologists and exotic animal show comes in, we have labs set up on the shore of the river where they collect their own water and look at the insects underneath the microscopes. And no matter what we offer them, even water balloon fights on the lawn, when you say, okay, it's free choice, what do you want? They want to go back in the river.
Oh, that's cool.
That is so exciting to hear about. I had no idea the depth to which that River Camp went to educate the kids on water resources and the environment and quality of water. I was at a sustainability seminar some time ago, and on the wall they had said it's very important for everyone to know, where does your water come from and where does your wastewater go? Just those two things. And what you're doing is certainly part of that process of education. So that's exciting to know. By the way, do you reach out to the city of Riverside, to the city government to engage in this river camp?
Well, let me tell you something. 3 years ago, that area of McLean Park was technically not a quote-unquote safe legal access point. People were using it, but the park had been turned over from the county, who discouraged use because of perceived liability and maintenance issues. It had been turned over to the city, and we saw this amazing new life in the park. And people were still using that beach, but because nobody said, it's yours, you can use it, here's how to use it, here's the trash, here's what to do, people were using it in a way that was not, the best for the area. So at the same time that I came on board at Waterkeeper, we got a new mayor, Rusty Bailey. Mm-hmm. And I thought, well, it's as good a time as any. And I had a couple meetings with him and his park director at the time, Ralph Munoz, and turned out that although Ralph, a great man that's been there a long time, but very tried and true to what he had saw work and didn't work, and then Rusty Bailey, who loved the river and said, yeah, we need to get people in here. And so we both worked on Ralph, and Ralph let us open that site on Swimmable California Day. Almost 3 years ago, the state recognized, because of Waterkeepers, a date in July as Swimmable California Day, and Rusty Bailey and his family and a bunch of community members and I opened that beach. And we were on the news and we were on the radio, and we didn't know if it would stick, but it has been really great. And as a matter of fact, the city of Riverside hosts our camp. Our registration is through the City of Riverside. We're a City of Riverside camp in their activity guide. And I think it was a leap of faith, but I think that they knew and it just felt right. And it's proven to be a great partnership. And I couldn't say more about how much the city has really gone from turning their back to the river, quite literally, with the way things have been built up, to embracing the river, creating task force around the river, and really wanting to recognize it as the resource that it is. So I love our relationship with the city, and I'm looking forward to lots of more projects.
Well, you know, they like to call themselves the Emerald City, being very green. Going back to Pete for a second. Pete, what is the biggest challenges that you have at your level from the, I'll say, the corporate or the headquarters for anything around the world, and what do you see as what you have to do even more stronger and to push what you need to have done?
Well, I think one of the biggest challenges is that, you know, we have 300 water keepers around the world. We'd like to have 3,000. You know, we see a very short window here to protect our water resources globally, and so we work very hard to try to find people like Megan and Gary, who are so dedicated to their waterways and their communities, to be water keepers around the world. So that's one of our biggest challenges. And what we do at Waterkeeper Alliance is we work to support all of our water keepers that are in the field. Excuse me. So we work to coordinate them around various campaigns and to find fundraising for groups that are having a hard time. You know, they're all NGOs, they're all community-based groups who frequently have a hard time fundraising. We help to educate them on how to do water quality monitoring, how to run something as simple as running an organization, especially for our international groups, which have very, you know, little access to resources. We're finding ourselves doing a lot of training. And so, and educating them on very basic but very important organizing, like Megan was referring to. You know, it's so great to hear what they're doing down there. It's great, you know, because a lot of communities around the world, as she said, have their backs to the waterway. You know, many of our waterways globally have been considered just waste conveyances for years. You know, you put it in, you dump your waste, whether it's industrial waste or human waste, into the waterway and it goes away. You know, and that just is not sustainable, and that's not working. And I think, you know, educating our water keepers on how to engage their communities and empower their communities to take ownership of their waterways. You know, we deal on a variety of pollution issues. You know, each one of our water keepers has their own unique set of issues that they work on and focus on. So we do our best to support them, whether it be through legal support, capacity building to build their organization, and training. That's really what we really focus on. And we, you know, I think with climate, the impacts of climate change, the impacts of, you know, diminishing water quantity and quality around the world, I think that's, you know, we've got a short window to really address that.
Well, you know, I'm sure you all know, I know the local guys do, and I'm sure you do too, that the Toro Company, which Mike and I work for, is a contributor to your organization. We're very supportive of that over the years. We want to continue to do that. We also have a financial relationship and a partnership with the Wyland Foundation. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that. And and we do a lot of things. And maybe the three of us ought to talk together, sit down, and what we can do, because I know we're talking. I was over with Wyland yesterday, and he's expanding his conservation efforts overseas. And we got Richard Branson involved and things of that sort, and some other major people that and he wants to announce something at the UN coming up. So that could be something maybe we can all talk, since we're all financing and putting money into all of these things. That would be a good thing. Gary, on your side, what is your biggest challenge on the local side for you?
Oh, I think one of the constant challenges, of course, is dealing with water quality from polluted urban runoff and all of the discharges that ultimately can degrade the water quality of our waterways, our harbors, and our beaches. So we spend a lot of advocacy, writing the laws, dealing with governmental agencies, as well as trying to clean up individual facilities. That's one of our biggest. Another thing that I think is really important is that up until, say, for me at least, I started Coastkeeper in 1999, the same year the Waterkeeper Alliance started, and we looked at two waters in California. We looked at the polluted urban runoff that was nasty, a nuisance, and we just tried to get rid of it as quick as possible by gravity and dump it in the rivers and the harbors and let it go to the beach and just get rid of it. Then we looked at the Santa Ana River and thought, well, that's our precious drinking water resource, one of them, and we need to treat that differently. And then Orange County came up with something that was a world-class, one-of-a-kind, the largest in the world facility that was a long time in the planning, but it turns basically sewage into distilled water that exceeds all drinking water standards. And that was called the groundwater replenishment system. And what I think that taught a lot of people, in particularly in Southern California, is that we only have one water. It's all one water. It's all potential drinking water. We need to be smarter about capturing it, about recycling it, and reusing it. And so one of the projects we're working on in Southern California imports so much of its water. If you're San Diego County, you import 90%. If you're Orange County, you import around 50%, a little bit less than 50%. And, you know, and we're importing in LA County more, but we're importing water from very fragile sources, both the Northern California Delta and the Colorado River. And Southern California has got to become more responsible and be more sustainable, be more water reliant, have more resilience. And so we've been advocating on a larger scale that basically if we just did three things, we would improve our resilience and sustainability greatly. And that would be if we, as homeowners throughout Southern California, if we understand and learn more about transitioning our landscapes, that's the low-hanging fruit. We can. It's crazy that we spend literally billions of dollars on water, bringing it down here, treating it, and all the various programs we have, and then we put 60% of our drinking water on our landscapes, especially in a drought. And so we have got to be smarter, and we built a drought-tolerant demonstration garden that's 2.5 acres that we have a number of people visit every month, and that's one of the things we need to do. And certainly we need to, Southern California, if we would clean up some of our contaminated aquifers, we would have 13 million acre-feet of water storage underground. And so, and we're doing some restoration, but we've got to be more robust and more proactive. And the third is basically the thing we're working on is the groundwater replenishment system, or what that's called is indirect potable reuse, where you can take sewage, you put it through 5 barriers of treatment, and basically you have distilled water. But currently in state law, that was a brand new project, and you have to put the water, after you get this clean water, you have to put it in an underground aquifer or in a lake or somewhere as an environmental buffer, so nobody's in crisis, nobody's health is in jeopardy. Right. And so we've been doing that. We started with 70, now we're 100 million gallons a day of distilled water we put in our underground aquifer. And then we have one more expansion we'll be at 130 million gallons a day. Right. And so what I've chaired a statewide advisory committee that was set up by state legislation that works alongside of an expert panel, and we're have just completed our task of writing the criteria that the state will use and the science the state will use in permitting the next evolutionary step in water and the real long-term solution, which would be direct potable. And that means that you have the same treatment system, but you shrink. Ultimately, you won't have to put it in an aquifer or in a lake. You can put it in a tank for holding time to monitor the health of that, and then you can put it in the drinking water treatment system. And how we get to direct potable from indirect potable is important because once we get there, you can build a plant anywhere. You don't have to have an aquifer. You don't have to have a lake. It's applicable anywhere as a water solution, and it's certainly less expensive, less environmental impacts, and less energy than an ocean desal plant.
Absolutely. If you guys can hold on a minute, it's where you need to take a break here for our word from our sponsors. Keep the show going. So you're all listening to the Water Zone on KCAA 1050 AM, 106.5 FM on your dial. You're here with Mike and Rob, and we'll be back in just a moment.
With the Waterkeeper.
Are you presently part of the irrigation industry as a worker or business owner? Do you want to learn how you and your staff can boost your knowledge and productivity? Then you should check out Irrigator Technical Training School. Irrigator Tech is the leading source of quality instruction serving all facets of the irrigation industry. Their courses provide a basic, easy-to-understand approach that raises the skill level, competency, and professionalism of landscape and irrigation personnel through practical education and services. Irrigator Tech combines classroom and real-life hands-on training, leading to a well-recognized certification that both customers and employers demand. Irrigator Tech's specialized courses can help you quickly become a certified irrigation auditor or a certified installer, repair, maintenance, or backflow technician. Courses also include certificates in smart water application or becoming a certified tree worker. Most importantly, all certifications are state recognized, and Irrigator Tech offers annual renewal classes to help keep your certification up to date. So whether you work in California, Washington, Oregon, Nevada, or Arizona, there's an Irrigator Tech class near you. For more information on how to jumpstart your career, call Irrigator Tech toll-free 866-614-1755 or visit them on the web at irrigatortech.com. That's toll-free 866-614-1755 and on the web at irrigatortech.com.
Did you know that an irrigation system that has a leak of just 1/32 of an inch in diameter, that's the thickness of a dime, wastes 6,300 gallons of water per month or 75,000 gallons per year? Well, with more solvent cement experience than anyone on the planet, Weldon formulates their products not just to meet a standard, but to exceed it. Weldon products are designed to provide even greater safety margins, often able to make up for common mistakes or less than ideal installation conditions, reducing the chance for leaks and costly callbacks. Weldon's invention of solvent cement over 60 years ago revolutionized the piping industry. From day one, Weldon has led the industry with their broad range of high-performing solvent cements, primers, and cleaners, bringing unique solutions to professional contractors and homeowners. Along the way, Weldon has earned the loyalty of millions of professional contractors who trust their products and depend on their outstanding customer service, live technical hotline, troubleshooting services, and free training. And because they care about the environment, Weldon was the first manufacturer to develop and offer a complete line of low VOC cements. Their hottest formulation is Weldon 750 Hot Weld, a one-step, fast-setting blue PVC solvent cement specifically formulated for superior, long-term, trouble-free performance. So whether you're a professional contractor or just a backyard do-it-yourselfer, choose Weldon, the trusted global leader in solvent cements for leak-free plastic piping systems. To learn more about their complete line of products or technical training, visit the web at www.weldon.com or call their technical service hotline at 877-477-8327.
Well, welcome back to the Water Zone with Mike and Rob, and hope everybody's having a great afternoon. We have some great guests from the Waterkeeper Alliance. We have their head national director, Mr. Pete Nichols, from Orange County Coast Waterkeeper, Gary Brown, and from the Inland Empire Waterkeeper, Megan Broussard. Megan, what is your greatest challenge in your area? We've covered from Pete and Gary, and now it's your turn, and then we'll come back where you tell everybody where we can all reach everybody.
Well, I've got to say it's evolving because, in the beginning of my job here at Waterkeeper, it was really a lot about needing safe legal access to the river so that we could encourage recreation for mainly the purpose at that time to to behoove the powers that be to raise the standards. So, for example, the Clean Water Act says if you can demonstrate that the highest use of this river is people swimming in it, then the government has to meet those standards for swimming. So that's really where we were coming from, and that's still good work and it's still important, but with the resurgence of building and construction and development in the IE, advocacy has really taken a step forward in trying to, advise cities and communities and read all those EIRs and find out what development projects are maybe missing the mark and going to be a future problem for water quality, tempering the spirit of Inland Empire Waterkeeper. It was founded by Gary in Orange County Coastkeeper. Gary's the executive director. So his spirit is ours in that it's a moderate viewpoint that we take. We're not against development. We want good development that's good for communities, but it's also good for clean water. So I think it's kind of the forefront for me right now. The struggle is to have the capacity to reach out to these cities as they're, have a carrot dangled in front of them. These cities are hurting. Some of these cities are newly founded, and they need that development money, and it looks really good. And trying to be a moderate voice to help craft these developments in a way that serve everybody but don't doom us right back to what got us into this trouble in the first place. And then that is coupled with stewardship. We just absolutely have to change the stigma about the river and change just the for lack of a better word, ignorance in its truest definition, just not being informed about the river and the watershed. So those are the two things. It's getting folks to know about and care about this river and watershed so that then they understand the value when we come to them and say, hey, this isn't a great development for your community, and here's why.
Right. Well, anything that Mike and I and obviously the Toro Company can do, because we all support all three of you and more others around the world, we'd love to do that. Pete, how can they get a hold of you or your organization? Was there a website that they can go to? And if you can give that to our audience, and then I'll go around with everybody else to do the same.
Yeah, and thanks for having me on. And I would really, applaud the work that Megan and Gary are doing down there and encourage your listeners to support them as much as they can. Folks can go to waterkeeper.org to learn about Waterkeeper Alliance. And my direct email is pnichols, Nichols, @waterkeeper.org. And I'd be happy to hear from anybody with any questions or anything of the sort.
Gary, how do they reach you?
Well, our website is coastkeeper.org. It's basically orangecountycoastkeeper.org, and they can get a hold of me at just by Gary at coastkeeper.org.
Okay, and Megan?
Yep, we're at iewaterkeeper.org, and I'm at Megan, Megan, at iewaterkeeper.org, and we're always on the ground in Riverside, so we welcome people to come out to any of the parks or the cleanups, to come on the website and find a cleanup. They're almost every month, and come out and find out what it's all about. And I think that'll move people to donate and give.
Yeah, well, on behalf of Mike and I, and obviously the Toro Company, we applaud everything that your organizations are doing and totally support you in that. And anything that we can do to keep on supporting you, we'll be glad to do that. So again,
we really appreciate it, Rob.
Yes, we really do.
And Rob's email address is robert.starr@toro.com. So, but I think it's fantastic that, I'm just really taken with what Inland Empire is doing.
All of them.
Yeah, everybody's doing it, but I don't know. Something about the kids and that river camp just strikes me as being.
You just want to play in the water, Mike.
I just want to play in the water, but. So anyway, all of you are doing a great job. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us on the Water Zone, to share with us what your organizations are doing, and we encourage people to go online, donate. It's for a very worthy cause.
And thanks for being on our anniversary show. I think it was a great thing to have you guys on, and we appreciate that. So have a nice week, and keep listening to Water Zone. And if you have any questions, you can go to torowatersmart.com, and that's you can leave some messages for that, or Mike gave out my email address, and we'll be glad to answer you. So everybody have a nice week, and remember, save water and keep it clean.
This is 1050 AM KCAA Loma Linda and 106.5 FM Yucaipa.
Mark, why the jingle bells? Christmas is 5 to 6 months away.
Oh, but not for the children of Loma Linda University Children's Hospital. They're having Christmas in July. Brought to you by the Sons of the American Legion Squadron 155 and proudly sponsored by KCAA. See, some of these kids are undergoing treatment and they've been bedridden for weeks. Many are terminally ill. The goal is to get everyone involved to help bring smiles and hope to the children at Loma Linda Children's Hospital.
Wow, sounds awesome. How can I help?
It is awesome. And you can call 909-227-4849 to find out how to join in the fun and in the giving. 909-227-4849. That's 909-227-4849. It's the 9th annual Christmas in July motorcycle run and car show, Sunday, July 17th from 9 to noon. Brought to you by the Sons of the American Legion Squadron 155 and proudly sponsored by KCAA.
If you're trying to prevent home foreclosure, you need a law firm with extensive experience representing clients in protecting their homes from foreclosure. The Goodman Law Firm is a nationwide team of mortgage mitigation